I think we can start the webinar. Thank you everyone for joining this webinar. I am Siddharth, a founding member of Complyance. So in this webinar, we will be talking about the different e-invoicing models, that is the four corner model, five corner model, and we will be discussing about the CTC and the DCTCE models, which are used in this four corner and five corner models, and how they come into picture, and what is the main difference between the CTC and DCTC model, and why governments are implementing these in the e-invoicing framework of the globe. So going forward, we'll dive into the topic. So first we have to see the global shift in the e-invoicing structure and the e-invoicing adaptation as well. So many countries are adapting aggressively the e-invoicing models and the e-invoicing processes. So many countries are mandating e-invoices and e-invoicing in their countries. As well, many countries have already mandated. For example, countries in EU have already mandated e-invoicing, and many countries have adopted as well. So, and many countries, while implementing, they went with a post-audit model, and now they are shifting it into real-time compliance models. That is the CTC model. So, the main thing to look here is the post-audit method and the clearance method, which is nothing but the CTC. So, CTC model is nothing but a system which simply transfers the invoice data to the government authority or any authority, regulatory authority in real time. So CTC stands for Continuous Transaction Control. So it continuously transmits the data and shifts the control to the government to listen to the data and dictate when the invoice should be submitted to them. So if you see many countries in Latin America where the tax gaps and fraud tax frauds were very high, they were implementing e-invoicing with the CTC model to begin with. Whereas European countries, they have adopted e-invoicing without the CTC model, and now they are shifting it to the CTC model. So before the CTC model, they were using the post-audit method of reporting to the government, and now they are shifting the four corner models to a CTC model. And what is happening in Europe is, and European Union is, because they have already implemented e-invoicing, using this e-invoicing as a core and a base, they are also trying to automate and validate the VAT data as well. That is, they want to automate the VAT submission and the VAT reporting as well with e-invoicing in place and with the e-invoicing structure in place. So if you see other regions like the GCC and the Asia Pacific, they are seeing these models in practice, and they are trying to implement these models in a different way, and they are trying to do it in a decentralized way, that is the DCTC models. A few countries are going with CTC models in Asia Pacific and GCC as well, but many countries are adopting a hybrid model as well as uh, DCTC models as well. So the shift to the continuous transaction models is seen throughout the globe. So let's start from the basic, that is the four corner models, which was used in the PEPAL implementation process. So during the implementation of PEPAL, PEPAL was introduced in the European Union in the 2008 period. So in this model, it is a simple four corner model which has the seller, the seller's access point or service provider, the buyer's access point or service provider, and the buyer. So these are the four simple corners in the four corner model. And the process of transmitting the invoices is in the following way. That is, the sender generates the invoice and issues the invoice, and the invoice data is sent to the sender service provider or sender's access point. So this access point receives that data and converts the data into standard PEPAL format or standard format like PEPAL BIS 3.0 or any other format which is used in that country, and then sends this structured data through the PEPAL network to the buyer's, that is the buyer or receiver's access point or service provider. And the buyer's access point converts it into a favorable format for the buyer and sends it to them automatically through API integration or manual sending, whatever agreement they have had. In that way, they will be sending it to the buyer. So in this way, this simple four-corner model was implemented across the globe during the PEPAL adoption. So why this four-corner model matters is that the first thing is that PEPAL is not a centralized entity in any country. it was established as a non-profit organization for the businesses to adopt e-invoicing in the European Union. It was established as an entity which facilitated ease of operations and made business transactions and business interoperability very easy and efficient. So it is considered as a decentralized structure or model used for just invoice transmission and the ease of business operation. But even though it is decentralized, it automates the invoice data and it sends the invoice data to the government in a post-audit method of submission or transmission to the government. That is, they need to send the invoice data to the local government authority in a specific period of intervals. That is, it might be a monthly interval or it might be quarterly intervals according to the local government. So after they send invoices for few weeks and few months, they consolidate this invoice data and send it to the government for audits. And the fourth thing is the businesses had more authority on how they consolidated this invoice data and how they send this invoice data to the government. So this was the main features and aspects of the four corner model. And because of this, the governments were easily able to implement the four corner model and make businesses adopt e-invoicing throughout the globe. If you see, PayPal was a great success in the European Union, as well as it has been adopted by many other countries as well. Like PayPal was adopted in Singapore, Malaysia. It is being adopted in UAE, whereas like Belgium also is adopting PayPal, and most of the European countries are adopting only PayPal. And PayPal is also pushing for adoption in multiple regions as well. So moving on to the next model, that is a five corner model, which is a bit complex than the four corner model. This is nothing but an extra corner added, but this corner is the government authority or the local government platform or government entity. So what happens is in the four corner model, there is no real-time hearing of the government entity. The invoice data is transmitted to the government on a later date using the post-audit model. That is, they give the invoice data for audit in a later date. But in the five-corner model, governments are keen to listen on this invoicing data for many reasons. One is to avoid tax frauds. Second is to improve the business efficiency. And two, they might also even give policies or they might churn out data from this invoice data and make policies and reforms, and they might also improve upon the business efficiencies with policy making and stuff. And they also want to reduce the tax fraud, tax gaps, and they want to reduce the time taken for audits by the companies as well. If they do the invoice auditing in real time, they need not break their heads at a later date and they need not go through all the invoice data that they have generated in the previous month as well. So to reduce the effort and to reduce the process complexities, they have introduced this five corner model. And here the process is also very simple. It's similar to four corner, but with an extra layer. That is, the sender generates the invoice data and sends it to the sender's access point or service provider. This service provider converts this data into standard e-invoicing formats and sends it to the government or local authority. This local authority hears the data and validates and approves the data and sends it back to the sender's access point. So after they receive the cleared and verified data, they send it through the PayPal network to the buyer's access point or buyer's service provider. This buyer's service provider changes and converts it to the buyer favorable format and sends it to their software or ERP directly. This is the simple structure of the five corner e-invoicing model. So let's see why this five corner model really matters. The first thing, as I already told, the real-time validation reduces the effort from the companies to go through and audit the invoices on a later date. And as and when the invoices are reported, they get the validation and error messages as well. It is a proactive involvement of the government to reduce the tax errors and tax gaps and tax frauds in real time itself. And the next thing is that tax authority is in the loop and continuously hears to the invoice data. And because of this, they give back the error messages in real time. And the next thing is they enhance the tax automation process as well. So at on a later date during an audit, the auditors or the company need not break their head because everything is already validated and already all the records are kept in proper formats. So the transition from the four corner model to the five corner model is generally for the governments to take control of the compliance and the e-invoicing process and to listen to the e-invoicing data. So the control shifts from the businesses to the government in this five corner model. So, as we have discussed and we are clear about the four corner and five corner models, we come to this CTC and what is CTC and what is DCTCE. So, I have already mentioned that governments want to listen to this data. So, the process of listening this data in a continuous real-time manner is the CTC, that is continuous transaction control. But for in order to listen to this data, governments need infrastructure and the APIs has to work 24/7 for real-time receiving and hearing. So apart from this, so coming back to that, how the CTC works is that as soon as the invoice is generated and transmitted to the service provider, it is converted to the approved format and is sent to the government or local authority. The local authority hears to this and validates this in real time and clears it and gives it to the sender to send it to the buyer. So only after the government's clearance we can send it to the buyer. So this is the CTC model. But for this to happen, government has to have continuous listening and infrastructure for continuous listening, and they have to validate it in real time and send it back. Unless they validate and send it back, the sender cannot send it to the buyer, right? The seller or sender cannot send it to the buyer. So this way, the responsibility and the complexity on the government side is also increasing. That is why many companies and many countries are moving to DCTCE model. In the DCTCE model, the government is like a silent listening entity. That is, they get the invoice data, they store the invoice data and archive it, but the validation process and the approval process is distributed to the access points. What the government does is they accredit few access points according to stringent methods and stringent rules, and they accredit this access point and they give authority to this access point to validate and send the data in place of the government. So in this way, government need not maintain complex platforms or complex APIs running 24/7 to listen to the data and validate the data. So in this way, the complexity as well as the authority is distributed and decentralized from the government to the access points and accredited service providers. So this is what is the main difference between CTC model and the DCTCE model. If you see in KSA, they have implemented the CTC model and the government through the Fatura portal validates each and every invoice and approves it and gives back an UUID and the QR code for as a proof of validation. And only with these two, the invoice can be sent to the buyer or the receiver. So this model has been adopted by KSA. Whereas if you see the case of UAE, which is going to adopt e-invoicing in 2026, what they are going with is the DCTCE model. That is, they have decentralized the validation and approval process to accredited service providers, and all the companies have to engage with any of these accredited service providers to do e-invoicing. So, in this way, the government has moved the complexity and the authority of validation to the accredited service providers. So this is what the major shift is happening from CTC to DCTCE in many countries. So having cleared all the points, let us see the major difference and the uh, comparison between the four corner and the five corner model. So first, let's go with the four corner model. So the primary goal of four corner model was to implement e-invoicing and penetrate e-invoicing in as many countries as possible. And the government's role was to oversee this implementation and penetration of e-invoicing for the ease of business and to improve the business culture and business economy and business interoperability. And the reporting was done in a post-audit method, that is, on on a later date than that of the invoice generation. The invoice data was collected and given to the government for auditing. And the fraud detection was also done on during this post-audit. And the control authority was majorly with the businesses. That is, businesses had the say in when they have to submit and how they can submit to the government. And the integration complexity was also moderate than that of five corner model. So when you come to the five corner CTC or DCTCE model, the primary goal was to enforce tax and compliance rules for all the companies throughout the country. And the government's role was to ensure and validate and approve this real-time data or invoice data from the companies and give back to them. Because of this, the real-time reporting was also introduced in the five-corner model. That is, five-corner model has real-time reporting as well. And the fraud detection, error detection was also done in real time, and the error messages were sent back to the companies in real time for changing and resubmission of the invoices. Whereas a control authority, in case of five corner model, is shared between the government and the accredited service provider. So, according to which model, that is, if they are using CTC model, the complete control is with the government and the government platform. But if they use the DCTC model, the control is shared between the government as well as the accredited service providers. And the integration complexity is higher compared to the four corner model in the five corner model because of the real time data sending to the government authorities or the government platform. So, having said this, if you see the adaptation of different models in the European expanse and European landscape, most of the countries have adopted e-invoicing and they have adopted the PEPAL four-corner model, and few countries have also adopted the DCTC and the five-corner models as well. So what European landscape is trying to do is they have this vision of VIDA, that is VAT in the digital age. So as they have already implemented e-invoicing and many countries are going live with e-invoicing, they want to also bring in VAT automation with the e-invoicing in place. So all the VAT data and VAT related activities involving e-invoicing is also being automated in the upcoming future. And if you see countries like Belgium and Croatia, they have implemented this five-corner DCTC model for their convenience. Whereas few countries have went with the hybrid approach. That is, they have the PEPAL four-corner model as well. They also have the government platforms and government entities where they get the invoice data through integrations or through manual processes from the PEPAL four-corner model or through direct manual integration or manual sending. So they have this hybrid approach. Whereas few countries, they implemented the decentralized systems like the Netherlands and Nordic countries are maintaining distributed validation frameworks. So in this way, the European mandates and European landscape have played out. Whereas if you see the global e-invoicing trend, outside the European Union, there's a varied approach for e-invoicing, and the e-invoicing has been implemented in different ways. That is, in countries where there is strict tax evasions laws and they want to curb the tax evasions and tax frauds to the minimum, they have implemented the continuous transaction control or the clearance model. Both are same terminologies. Whereas if you see countries who don't want to maintain this infrastructure and don't want to continuously validate and send the validated invoices, but rather they just want to listen to the invoices in real time, they have implemented this DCTCE five corner model where the heavy lifting from the government is not needed as much as the CTC model. So if you see the global approach or global viewpoint, governments want to have the feature of listening to e-invoices in real time, but without the operational friction of the clearance or CTC model. So this is what the governments are keen on adopting in many upcoming mandated countries as well. So having said this, the recommendations or the things that you need to see before you select an access point or an service provider is that the first thing is uh, that you have to choose an access point which can adapt to any given model, whether it is DCTCE or CTC model using the 4 or 5 corner model. The flexibility should be there with the solution provider. And the second thing is, even if a country adopts a standard e-invoicing format, say for example EN 16931 is a standard used across the Europe. So even if the country adopts this standard, they have the ability to change few things in the constraints of the CIUS. That is the core invoice usage specification. According to these specifications, they can change the invoice formats and structures according to their specific use cases, specific transactions, and specific business models used in those countries. So you have to have a solution provider which is aware of all these changes in the different countries, all these small changes and small variations, and they have to have the capability of giving solutions for each and every country and each and every localized situation as well. And the third thing is the maintaining of e-invoicing archival. So many countries, even though the government still has an archival for invoices, they recommend companies also to maintain an archival from their side. So if you select a proper service provider, they have local servers to maintain local archival in different countries as well. For example, Compliance maintains different servers in different countries to cater to this mandate by the government. So you need not worry about the server setting up and archival process also. And the last and final thing is uh, you have to select an access point which can accommodate to any type of solution which you want, even if they want to deploy a hybrid model or they want to go with a specific PEPAL model as well. Because if you see many countries, they are giving flexibilities to the businesses to adapt to any model which they prefer comfortable. So you have to find a solution provider which can change and give the solution as you require, and which has to have the capability and the flexibility to accommodate different hybrid models as well. So these are the main recommendations that I would give for you to assess before selecting an access point or a service provider. So having said that, what compliance has brought to the table is that we have formed a standard format called GETS. So what is GETS stands for is GETS stands for Global E-Invoicing Transformation Standard. As I already mentioned, there are so many e-invoicing models, so many e-invoicing structures, so many e-invoicing formats in local governments and changes in many countries according to the local business structure. There is so much in play for businesses to look into and accommodate to. So instead of businesses breaking their head, so what we have done is we have amalgamated all these different e-invoicing formats and standards into a single standard called GETS. So if you align to this GET standards, you can easily convert that aligned data and submit to any government easily according to the local mandates. And on top of this, we have also introduced the GETS auto mapping feature, which is used to integrate this standard data to any government mandates or API with a single click of a button. So what happens is we automap the invoice headers to the local government authorities or whatever government authorities you need to comply with. So you do not manually write the code for mapping your invoice data to the local entities. We automate this through a single click of a button, which can be easily done by any beginner developer as well. So what this means is we have reduced the integration process drastically by almost 10 times. So if you see the difference between Compliance and any other solution provider, we can make you go live within a week of time. If there are proper developers from your side or simple integration process is required for going live with e-invoicing within days. So what this means for you is it means business efficiency and 10x faster go lives. And your business efficiency is drastically improved because you need not worry about going live with e-invoicing and the e-invoicing process. Everything is maintained and controlled by compliance while you can concentrate on your core business activities. So here I want to mention one of the companies that went live with e-invoicing with compliance in Malaysia, and they are also planning to go live with compliance in other countries and other mandated countries as well. So what happened is in Malaysia, they have almost 27 retail outlets, and globally they operate in almost 90 plus countries. What we have done with Lockheed 10 is that we have drastically reduced their complexity and their go live effort and made them focus on their core business rather than on e-invoicing. So with this, they have improved their efficiency and they are so happy with the solution that they are going live with e-invoicing in other countries as well using compliance for both B2B and B2C transactions. So with this, I come to a conclusion of this webinar. So thank you for attending this webinar, and please feel free to contact us if you have any doubts regarding e-invoicing, which models you have to use, and how to implement e-invoicing in different countries. If you want a consultation call, you can surely contact us through the numbers given, or you can drop an email. Or if you want to have a demo of our product and demo of how we can simplify your e-invoicing process, feel free to contact us. So with that, I end this webinar. Thank you for joining. Have a great day.